Hi, Scott here. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good week and the markets are treating you well. So happy Friday. Friday is a day to try and get in and out of trades before the weekend, if possible, to save carrying them over the weekend and taking that risk of potentially gaps in the market or some funny things happening over the weekend and therefore causing your trades to get messed up on Monday morning. So we're looking for some good action today, and there's plenty to look at actually, which is good. There's some Euro news last night, which made the Euro weak, and so we've got some nice trends starting from that. Let's get straight into it because there is a lot to cover. I say that almost every day, don't I? But there is a lot to cover today. Right, let's start off with the top of my list is Aussie CAD. So we've seen this on the daily, so my high time frame chart, monthly, weekly, daily at the bottom. Most important one's daily. And I like to get the monthly and weekly here just in case there's something obvious there, like hitting the weekly 50, touching the weekly 50 rejection, or monthly 50 rejection, anything like that. But generally speaking, the daily is what I concentrate on. And what do we have? We have a run up straight into the daily 50 and a nice rejection yesterday. So maybe we're looking into some more downward pressure today. Look at our 1 hour chart. This is my lower time frames, 4 hour, 5 minute, 1 hour at the bottom. I usually focus on the 1 hour, so we'll zoom into that so we get a nice clear picture of what's going on. Right, so we had this bearish pressure yesterday off the daily 50, which is this green line. It's now hit the red line and just broken through it, which is the 1 hour 50, which is the most important indicator on this chart. And yes, the 50 EMA. And then down here we have the blue. The blue line here is the 4 hour 50 EMA, which is dynamic support resistance. I like to see that as well, because if I'm setting up a trade like we have here, I like to know where the 4 hour 50 is so I know if I'm trading through it. Okay, so what do we have then? We've got, it's just broken the 1 hour 50 and it seems to have clearly broken it. We're trading away from the daily 50, so quickly recap on the daily time frame. We're trading away from the daily 50, so in theory we could be trading down to these lows. There's no obvious Elliott wave to give us an indication, but potentially we're trading down to the lows. So if that's the case, we're trading through the day 20, this red line, but I don't consider that an issue, especially trading away from the daily 50. If we're trading towards it, then often you get a rejection there. As you see, when we came towards the daily 20 here, people were taking profits on the long trade and it bounced off. And again, the day 20 and bounced off, and this time it broke through. So often with a pullback through the daily 20 towards the daily 50, we get a first rejection and then the second time it will break through. Now, when we're trading away from the daily 50 to the daily 20, often it'll maybe a hesitation there, but often it'll just ignore it. So it doesn't bother me. I'd like to see 1% before the 4 hour 50 so that we can reduce risk at the 4 hour 50, and that's spot on 1%. So that's looking good. And if we did trade down to lows, maybe these lows here, or a bit lower, putting a trading style, there's over 2% on offer there. So hopefully we'll get a nice little bring down nicely, probably down to about here somewhere, maybe even the 4 hour 50. So this will of course be an IBOC because we are trading through the 4 hour 50 and we've already rejected it as well. But that's looking like a nice trade that might set up. So hopefully that'll, there's a few Aussie pairs that are looking similar, so hopefully that'll be the case. Aussie Kiwi next. So we've had this really long run up for quite a while. We can see clearly on the weekly chart, it's just been pretty relentless until the last few weeks. We had a very strong rejection, working through this potential trend line here, trend line that goes back quite a way on the daily, and didn't quite have enough strength to pull back to retest it. It did pull back to the day 20, daily 50 area, and now we are looking like we're going short. How far short? That's hard to say. If it's a wave 5, which we've been kind of counting down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it will go down to these lows and maybe not much more to the downside. But maybe it will just keep on dropping. So play it safe as a wave 5 to the lows. Lower time frames, what does that give us? We've got a strong one up, almost rejected the daily 20, didn't quite get there, and then it got rejected cleanly straight through the 1 hour 50 and 4 hour 50, the red and the blue lines here. Came back and retested it yesterday. This is one I mentioned yesterday. Actually, this is my marking. So if it did pull back, that would offer an opportunity, and it did. Hopefully, some of you caught that. I actually played that perfectly. Just rejected the 1 hour 50, the 4 hour 50, and the 382 pretty perfectly, and we would now be about 2% in profit. Actually, probably even more. If we pull that on 618, you'd be up currently 1.9. These lows 2.7, nicely in profit. Okay, but that's gone. What's next? You can have a discretionary CBO, or when it pulls back to the 1 hour 50, if it pulls back, with the 4 hour 50 not too far behind. Or the other obvious trade is the pip snatcher, which is looking like a very nice pip snatcher. Pivot lines up with the 1 hour 50, hopefully in a few hours, that will catch up. And that could be a breakthrough the pivot, test of the 1 hour 50 and trading short for a quick 1% pip snatcher. As usual, the entry around the pivot, take profit just behind the this daily, this will be the R1, and down here we've got the daily S1. So take profit before the S1 at 1%. So that looks like a nice possibility. There's a few Aussie ones which are worth considering. Aussie dollar, we rejected this on the daily, rejected this major level, which has bounced off quite a few times, and then we bounced off it again, very near to the daily 50s. That's a good rejection zone. And we had a bearish day yesterday, so we're looking like we're going short. What do we have on the 1 hour chart? We have some kind of trend line. It's a bit hard to get it exact, but there's something there somewhere. There, anyway it goes, we will need to break this trend line when we pull back, and then pull back for an entry. So it does break down here, pull back, give us an IBO. IBO, this will be an A or a B, and that just depends on a 4 hour chart. We've had a 4 hour change of direction, lower highs. It's a bit iffy, isn't it? But there seems to be a lower high there and a lower low. Lower low, no. Not clear, so probably an IBO B, I guess we call that one. IBO A has a clear confirmation on the 4 hour chart of a trend change, which we don't quite see. On the 1 hour chart, anyway, we have a nice trend change on the 1 hour chart with a lower low, lower high, and when it should break this trend line, go down here somewhere, pull back, and that gives us a nice little short trade. Trade down to the 4 hour 50 as a conservative target. We just go back to the daily, and we could even be trading all the way down to these lows. That's a good possibility. Use good trade management, and in theory you could be trading right down to here, which would be a nice 4%er. Definitely keep an eye on that one. It's looking nice. There's a few Aussies, and there will be a few Euros coming up, I think, from memory. All right, so what we got here? Swiss yen. Very overbought on the monthly and the weekly, stalling at this level, been rejected. We've had a clear MACD on the daily, MACD divergence. This high is much lower than this high on the MACD, but they're the same on the price action, indicating we're going to get some lower prices. So we've had a bit of bearish action the last few days. Nothing that strong at the moment, but it's definitely looking short. And on the 1 hour chart, we have, apart from this mess at the beginning of the week, it's kind of settled down into a nice little downtrend. What have we got now? Probably the best thing we can have now is we could have a discretionary CBO, because we haven't actually, since this break up here, we haven't had a nice clear retest of the 4-hour 50. But it's pulled away from the 4-hour now, so maybe we'll discard that. Best thing here is a pitch snatcher. Not very keen on this higher low forming here on the pullback. This was Swiss yen. I think there was some news 2 days ago. Look at my chart for my news. Not really sure. Don't know. So not keen on the higher low. You could almost say it's a double bottom. These bodies of the candles, these wicks of these candles. But pitch snatcher short could be on. Couldn't take it much more than 1% anyway, so that's a possibility. Not the prettiest, but a possibility. Euro Aussie. Actually, go back to Swiss yen. I usually like to disqualify pitch snatchers where I can. So Swiss yen, what do we have on our MACD? It's pretty much as per the trend. And we got a slightly higher high here on the MACD. And I'm just testing this theory at the moment, but it seems that this indicates there's going to be one extra push down. So we could well see that test and play out. See what okay, Euro Aussie. So it's rejected this long trend line here. Way back, it still seems to be important. And it's also a resistance line as well, which we checked, goes way back. Rejected that, rejected it here, retested it, put it back down again. Do we have a MACD on those two highs? We do. MACD divergence, this high is clearly lower than this one, so that's very divergent, indicating we're going to go lower. And the daily, what does that give us? Okay, it's a bit messy, but we do have a downtrend, lower highs, lower lows. Not that clear. Bit of news going on here. This was the one up before the Euro news, and this was the drop after the Euro news. And now we've reached the daily 20, this red line, and we could be pulling back now for a pitch snatcher or another discretionary CBO. This isn't the cleanest, so probably the pitch snatcher is the best bet. Nice 1-to-1. Anything, well, we do have a divergence there, don't we, on the 1-hour chart? So this low to this low is actually higher than this low. So we have a divergence. That's not looking very good. So maybe I would be cautious about that one. There are better Euro trades, I think, from memory. Euro CAD, what do we have now? Well, we tested the weekly 50 up here, the red line. Which was a retest of this major level here, also test this major level here. And that was last 2 days. Very bearish action, so looking for some bearish action today. The Euro news made sure we had some. We were having MACD divergences here anyway. Look at the MACD. Clearly, this is lower as this was going sideways to up. And then that played out when the news came along. We had a big drop. So, fib, the lows, the highs of this run to the lows of this run, pullback, lines up perfectly with the pivot, and with the 1-hour 50 will be pretty soon. Euro CAD won't be setting up for another 5 or 6 hours when the volume comes in from UK open, so gives it plenty of time to pull back, give an entry, and we can trade that short down to the daily 20. Could we go lower? Let's go back to the daily. We trade it down to the 50. Are we overbought? Yeah, pretty overbought, but not. Look at the RSI now. Pretty overbought, not quite into the red zone, but definitely looking a bit overbought. So there, keep an eye on Euro CAD, Euro Swiss. So it's sort of, it wasn't an uptrend, it was just sort of drifting up. Nothing spectacular, but it was definitely a bullish trend. Are we overbought? Yes, we hit the red line on the RSI, overbought. Any MACD divergence? No, it's all looking good, just a bit overbought. And that news yesterday gave us some bearish pressure. It gave us a nice bearish candle yesterday. And again, we can do our fib from these highs to the lows. Do we have a trend change here? Well, we've got a higher high. And now we've got a lower low. So not a confirmed trend change, but looking at the MACD, we can see okay here, no, questionable. And then to this high and to this high, we're getting lower and lower on the MACD. So very strong MACD divergence, just in some lower prices. This would be an IBO, and you could turn it down to the 4-hour 50, which would be just over 1%, not much, just over 1%. Or we'll trade it through it to the day 20, could be a 2+% there. So that could be a nice little IBO, an IBOB, I imagine. Euro pound. So we've been kind of drifting along the last few weeks, nothing spectacular. The last few days we've had some bearish pressure, working through the daily 50. Maybe we're going to keep on going down. The other euro setups definitely showing some euro weakness. So what do we have here? Well, we've already had the breaks below the 1-hour 50. So all we can really do is have a pip snatcher. Quick 1-to-1, it pulls back to the pivot. The 1-hour 50 is quite a long way behind, which is not great. We want to see it test that. So euro pound, 6 hours time plus, maybe, but the 1-hour 50 is a bit too far behind for me. So MACD giving any divergences, lower, 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 higher, lower. So not really divergent. If we go from this one to this one, we are getting a lower on the MACD. So it's okay. Just the 1-hour 50 is a big red flag for me. I don't know that's going to set up nicely. Euro yen. Again, stalling at this line, this resistance line. Very bearish day yesterday after the news. What does that give us? This looks quite like a nice IBO played out yesterday. And then since then, setting up for CBO. Looking pretty perfect, isn't it? We've got the fib, highs of this run to the lows of this run. Pull back to the daily pivot. The 1-hour 50 is catching up, still a bit way behind, but it's okay. 4-hour 50 is perfectly aligned. This is almost textbook CBO. Give that a few hours for the 1-hour 50. It may come back, just poke its head through the 4-hour 50 and the daily pivot. Test the 1-hour 50 and play out a CBO. So stop goes behind the 618. Entry at 382 4-hour 50, and then we trade down to the daily 20, or you could even push it further down. So that's a very nice looking setup there. Euro Kiwi. Again, kind of drifting sideways, but we are definitely seeing bearish pressure yesterday. In the 2050 zone, daily 2050 zone, which is always a little bit more unpredictable, but there's definitely room to the daily 50. And what do we have here? Which is the news, obviously, and that's giving us, if we do a pullback, well, we've already had the CBO, so probably the best thing here is just a pip snatcher. 1-to-1, enter around the pivot, hopefully 1-hour 50 will catch up, quick rejection maybe, and a quick 1-to-1. So that's looking okay. Oh, let's just disqualify that, as I like to do. Euro Kilo, Euro USD. This is Euro USD. Okay, so no, it wasn't Euro Kiwi, sorry, it's a bit fizzled. Right, so Euro Kiwi as a pip snatcher, anything to discount it. We're getting lower lows on the MACD. Nothing to say that's an issue. Any trend lines we have will be way above the RSI. So yeah, nothing there. That still looks okay. Euro USD, what do we have here? Right, so we've broken this strong trend line on the daily. We are broken way above that, and now clearly above the one in the daily 50. Quick pullback. Is there going to be further pullback, or we're going to bounce off and go long? There's a bit of room for the daily 50, not much. On the 1 hour chart, what do we have? Well, we've got this trend line was 1, 2, 3 touches, okay, clearly broken. Coming back for a retest for an IBO. Do we have any other trend lines which are not broken? Even the most extreme trend line, we'll say that's still broken. And then it made me coming back for a retest at the same kind of place, same kind of area. So we have potential pip snatcher on here, or you could even have an IBO trading down to the daily 50, but it's going to be at 1% anyway, so probably best to stick with the pip snatcher rules, nice and simple. Stop behind the R1 and enter the pivot, which is basically this trend line is, where the 1 hour 50 is, and then quick 1% in and out. Thank you very much. That could set up soon. It needs to set up soon. All right, pound Kiwi. Pound Kiwi, oh, a bit messy, isn't it? Kind of making head and shoulders pattern on the daily here. Rejected this level again, which not spectacular. Bit of bearish pressure. Yeah, it's not that great, is it? Not that clear on the DDP there, but we'll go to the hourly and see what we get. We do have a clear MACD divergence all the way along here, all the way down here. MACD is getting lower and lower and lower. So that's implying there's some short pressure going to come in. We had a bounce down there, break the 1 hour 55, 50, straight back up again, breaking it again, back up to retest. So this is a good place for the bearish pressure to continue. CBO, as long as we get a gap there on the 4 hour chart, which we'll quickly look at. Here's the 4 hour chart, and there's a slight gap. Not that great, but there is definitely a little gap there. So we could cast that as a CBO, which is obviously a break and retest of the 1 hour 50 and the 4 hour 50. Fibs line up well, top of this run to the bottom of this run. 382 lines up well with where we're at right now, actually. So entry is imminent. Pound Kiwi, yeah, that could happen this time of day. See how that one plays out. And that's it for the ones that are setting up right now. There's a big bunch of ones which may set up soon, so I'll fly through those. I won't go into any real detail. Aussie Swiss, like other Aussie pairs, we're seeing rejection. This is clearly the daily 50 that's been rejected. And 1 hour chart, we can see trend line being broken. Probably MACD divergence on this, on these highs from this point. We'll see up here. So from this high to this high is much lower, and this high, that's same as this high, much lower. So looking for some downward pressure here, and when it breaks the 1 hour 50, get a retest, we can take that as an IBO short. Pound Swiss. Pound Swiss stalling at this level, nice deceleration. It's a reasonable level. I've been back and checked it. It's okay. It's reasonably strong, but it's not nothing spectacular. But should we get, and also we've got the 1 hour giving us a clear divergences on the 1 hour MACD. So we're looking for some lower pricing. Hopefully break the 1 hour 50 retest and an IBO short there. Pound yen. Pound yen still at this level and looking to go short after bearish day yesterday. Looking a bit sideways, but the 1 hour 50 is clearly broken. Actually, I don't like that one. So the only one that could play out here, I think, is the break of the 4 hour. If we get a clear breakdown of the 4 hour 50, we could then have a nice CBO on the retest as the 1 hour 50 comes down to meet it. One possible. Pound dollar. Again, this nice little trend line here, which I found, which is rejected perfectly. Bearish day yesterday. I'm just going to come down and retest the daily 50. And if it does this break on this trend line, not the strongest trend lines, but it's nevertheless, it's retested it and then broken it. And now waiting for a break of the 1 hour 50 retest. That could be an IBO short down to the 4 hour 50, daily 50. Not much room there, but worth keeping an eye on. Kiwi yen, this level here is pretty strong. Been rejected many times. Been rejected again, stalled in there, and nice little doji yesterday. Bit of a, this is the wedge I put in yesterday, I think. Yeah, put this in yesterday, and it's still respecting it. So just come back down here and retested it. Test the top. That's pretty good. It's nice when these lines are proven. But I haven't adjusted them at all. This is all from yesterday. So it's looking like a nice little wedge pattern there. Deceleration. We need a break of that and a retest of the 1 hour 50 for an IBOC because the 4 hour is pretty close. Or we could even wait for a break of the 4 hour 50 as well and get a CBO. Either way, that's something worth keeping an eye on. Kiwi USD, Kiwi dollar. Strong one up yesterday. The day before yesterday. Yesterday was the doji stalled at this daily 50. Looking like we could be going back down again if we get proof of a trend change. Nice little trend line here, respected again yesterday. And it breaks through that clearly, breaks the 1 hour 50, pulls back and tests it. We could be on a short IBO trade. Dollar CAD. Bearish pressure recently. We're now getting close to the daily 50. Maybe it's the time for it to go long again. We've got a nice little doji candle there. So that could even be a power trend. We're now trading back with the trend. The main trend, as you can see, is up. This could be a power trend where we could have a trade which is on the daily, enter just above this wick, close, so the stop just below the wick, the lows on yesterday, and then we can trade up to the highs or even higher. It could be a nice little trade. Or you can see the MACD on the hourly is showing very strong divergence, implying we can get some high prices. What else do we have? We also have, if we could put a trend line in here somewhere, maybe from there. Oh, look at that. Oh, wow, perfect. So this could be a nice SBO. Swing breakout. So we break again. It's like the power trend, but we can get much closer using the 1 hour chart. Closer with their stop and closer with their entry. So instead of waiting for a break of here for an entry, like on the power trend we just looked at, we can actually enter on the break of the 1 hour 50, and I suggest this trend line as well. Probably about the same time. Probably just this time. Dollar CAD, so that would 5 or 6 hours. About here, maybe. Take its head up. It's about there, and then you can just take it up to the highs. To the highs, go even higher. So that's a good thing about an SBO, is you can time the entry better. So the safe way is put just below these lows. Give 2.8%. Maybe even more if you go a little bit higher to the highs. Or you could even trim, look for a strong, this is obviously a strong support level. So we could put a support level in there, and maybe go just behind that. Because once we break through this, chance of pulling back much smaller, much more minimized. So we can have a nice SBO that's now 3.5%. So we can trim it. If we do get a pullback and a pull up, we might even trim it a little bit more. So we want to do, we have to get a handle. Anyway, that's the SBO. Or of course, we just wait for a vacant retest of the 1 hour 50 and take an IBO long. Options there. Depending what sort of trader you are. Power trend's a simple way. SBO's a little bit more tricky, and then the IBO's a bit more tricky again. Dollar Swiss, similar kind of thing, a pullback to the daily 50 and a rejection yesterday. Trading out of that, it's looking like a long trade. MACD is, it's looking okay today, isn't it? But this is a very high pullback. So make it one more run down. Because this high is higher than this high. Maybe. Or we could just break above. So we need some proof. Breaking retest of the 1 hour 50. We won't break that high, here somewhere. And we could be on an IBO or wait for confirmation. Go for the break and retest of the 4 hour 50. Take it up here. Yeah. Take it up. There's a CBO. Last one we look at, dollar yen. This has been an interesting one, isn't it? It's been relentless in its strength of the US dollar and the weakness of the yen. Seems to be turning around a bit recently, but is it about to resume? That's the burning question, right? Any clues? Daily MACD divergence between this high and this high. Let's zoom in the daily. So between this high, this peak here, and this peak here, which is much higher than the MACD, it's a little bit lower. So it's a big divergence, implying we're going to go lower. What else do we have? Oops. What else do we have? I don't know. So the MACD is implying we're going to go lower, but we've had nice deceleration here and a doji yesterday. And let's look at the RSI. We can see the RSI has come back to the halfway line. So that could be ready for the trend to resume. Go back to its trending long. That's what the daily gives us. And the weekly, still really overbought. It has been for a long time. So not much we can really get from that. It's due for a pullback, but it's been due for pullback since here somewhere, back in April. And the monthly is probably the same. Really overbought, crazy. So anyway, let's stick with what we have on the daily. We have possibility of the trend resuming, but the MACD is suggesting we're going to go lower. What does the 1 hour chart give us? Okay, we've got a trend line here. Yeah, it's not the best. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, 1, 2, 3 touches, and then it's broken through. So the trend line is broken, expecting something maybe going longer. With any MACD on there, MACD divergence. Yes, we do, from this low to this low. You can see the MACD's the same or slightly higher. So there's a MACD divergence there. We're going to go higher. Trend line break. So it's looking like on the short term, we're going to go higher. How far we go, who knows? Maybe we're just going to go back to the 4-hour 50 and then continue going short again. But for the moment, we have the potential of break of 1-hour 50, pullback, and then maybe going longer, or maybe it's going to take a short. So that's a bit too much of an unknown for me. I probably would steer clear of that one, but it was definitely worthy of a discussion, I feel. Okay. Right, good. There was a lot there. Hopefully you got something out of that. There's definitely a few good setups that are hopefully going to play out today on a Friday. I wish you all the best of the markets. Have a great weekend. Review your trades at the weekend, your trades for this week, so you can learn from them. That is probably one of the more painful things to do with trading, but it's where most of the lessons come from. So definitely do that. Find some time, just an hour or so, to go through your trades of the week and see how you might have improved them, or give yourself a pat on the back if they played out really well. So all the best. Nice weekend. I'll speak to you on Monday. Take care.